Good evening and welcome to the Cosmic Radio Network here on WSRF, AM 1580 on your dial. Good evening again. This is Rich Rudner along with my partner and good friend Michael Garrett. We've got a few good words for you tonight. We hope that you've got a few good words for us. We've had some interesting callers over the last couple of weeks, and we want to tonight we decided to dedicate our show to our listeners. I guess Michael put it, so let's do a bit of a potpourri. I mean, we've had all sorts of inquiries from all sorts of people covering different sorts of areas, because we do get into, as you know, we get into UFOs and alien abductions, government cover-ups, and that sort of thing. So we really want to leave the lines way open tonight, and I remind you that our number is 954-581-1580, 581-1580. We will have our trivia question later on this evening, and we'll have a little music playing in the background, as we usually do. But at the moment, I'd like to turn it over to my friend, Michael Garrett.
What a beautiful Sunday, huh?
You bet.
Absolutely beautiful day. Well, today's a great day, not only because it was a beautiful day, because we also want to welcome a sponsor to the program.
Oh, boy.
Yes, sir. Tonight's sponsor, or at least tonight's headline sponsor, is Fringes Hair and Nail Salon.
Ah, yes. Gino's place.
Mr. Gene Anderson. Fringes is located out here in West Broward, off Flamingo Drive, on Taft, just east of Flamingo. And it's Fringes Hair and Nail Salon. He does expert hair cutting, coloring, manicuring, and carries the, I think, the top brands in hair care products.
And I might want to point out, Gino doesn't do all this by himself. He has some really talented people that, I'm just kidding, that work with him. We've known Gino a long time.
Very qualified staff, and an excellent company. We hope that you will visit, our illustrious sponsor. And Gene, if you're out there, give us a call right away. I'd like to talk to you a little bit and introduce you to our listeners as the owner of Fringes Hair and Nail Salon. And if I had an applause tape, I'd put it on and say, yay. So hi, everybody. As Rich mentioned, tonight I think maybe we'll do a little potpourri, open lines, as it were. Anything you want to talk about tonight, anything goes. 954-581-1580. This thing really works if it works for you, works for me. Give us a call. We'll talk about anything you want to talk about. As you know, some of my favorite subjects are UFOs, extraterrestrials, flying saucers, whatever it is you want to call them. But I have great interest in a lot of subjects, including everything from the Loch Ness Monster to the lost continent of Atlantis, and just about everything in between that constitutes an enigma of our time. An enigma, a mystery, something that science can't answer easily, and something that I think deserves discussion, particularly in the area of UFOs, and the UFO phenomenon is my favorite subject. So if that's of any interest to you, and as you know, if you've been listening to any of the prior programs, I think there's great reason that it should be of interest to you. So in dealing with the potpourri subject, I have a number of items here that we can go over tonight, that I can go over tonight, at least until you call and steer me in another direction. And again, I'd be happy to have you call us. And again, that's get out your crayons, or, just use a nail and scratch it in the back of your hand if you'd like. The number is 581-1580. Give us a call. And Gene Anderson, if you're out there, and I know you're out there, give us a call. We'd like to talk to you for a minute. All right, here's something that's been bugging me, and I've brought in this article. It was in the, I believe, the San Francisco Chronicle. I'll tell you yeah, San Francisco Chronicle. And this was March 7th, 1998. The title of the article was Apocalypse Meets Millennium in Texas Sect. That's S-E-C-T, Texas Sect. Okay? Prophecy warns God will appear on Channel 18. Okay, dig this. God may or may not appear on worldwide TV on March 25th, but one thing is for sure. The gospel according to Heng Ming Cheng will be heard throughout the land. Apocalyptic groups have flourished throughout American history, but the approach of the year 2000 and the prophecies of a Taiwanese sect in Garland, Texas, have thoroughly mixed up the millennium, the media, and the message. God's Salvation Church blends doomsday warnings with UFO lore and a belief in reincarnation. Teacher Chen and about 150 followers have moved to Garland, Texas. Explaining his move to the Dallas suburb, Chen says, "Garland sounds just like God's land." Chen, a 42-year-old former professor from Taiwan, preaches that on March 25th, that's March 25th, God will appear on Channel 18 of every television set in the world.
Wait a minute. You want to run that by me one more time?
Channel 18 on March 25th. You all want to tune in now.
Uh-oh.
Every television set in the world, Channel 18, God will appear. 6 days later, on March 31st, he is scheduled to show up at 10 a.m. at 3513 Ridgedale Drive in Garland, Texas, taking human form in whose body? Chen's body. You got it.
Oh, well, I thought it was going to be Samantha Stevens or something.
No, it's Chen. And next year, as Asia is devastated by nuclear war, Chen predicts that flying saucers will meet in a circle of true believers in Gary, Indiana.
How do we get to Gary, Indiana?
I don't know how Chen got to Gary, Indiana. He must have been looking at a atlas.
You know what it was? He saw the Music Man.
Oh, Music Man, that's right.
Gary, Indiana.
That stands for P, that stands for pool, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, 76 trombones. We'll meet in a circle of true believers and 76 trombones in Gary, Indiana, on the shores of Lake Michigan.
This definitely requires a change in music, I think. I've got to do something different musically to go with this, Michael. Something is telling me
Oh, this gets better.
Oh, it does?
So yeah, just crank it up. Whatever you feel like running behind this.
Okay.
His Taiwanese followers, who wear white jogging suits and white cowboy hats, have been the talk of Garland since they began moving there last year. Members of the sect began leaving Taiwan for Southern California in 1995, worried about Chen's predictions of economic doom, natural disasters, and nuclear war in Asia. The group first surfaced in the media last year following the mass suicide in San Diego by 39 members of the Heaven's Gate cult. Gee, I wish we were on the radio during that. I'm sure we could have stirred some debate. Like the Heaven's Gate leader, Marshall Applewhite, who in himself was a charismatic leader, Chen preaches that flying saucers, it's guys like this that tick me off. Chen preaches that flying saucers will signal the unfolding of God's final chapter of human history. Here we go again. James Lewis, an authority on new religious movements and author of the book The Gods Have Landed, said there is a decades-long history of UFO apocalypticism. I think I've pronounced that as correctly as I'm going to be able to get it out.
I'm proud of you for that one.
There have always been millennial themes in UFO circles, with technological angels saving modern society, he said, and powerful space brothers replacing the redemption of God. Last year, when a UFO thought to be trailing the Hale-Bopp comet failed to appear, Heaven's Gate followers suffocated themselves after downing a deadly mix of drugs and alcohol, reviving nightmares of the 1978 People's Temple mass suicide and murder when more than 900 people perished in the South American jungle. By the way, that had nothing to do with UFOs. Some have begun to worry about what God's Salvation Church may do if Chen's prophecies do not come to pass later this month. As soon as groups commit to a date, it can get dangerous, said Professor Robert Smith, who teaches a course on apocalyptic beliefs at the Graduate Theology Union in Berkeley. When they get disappointed, they either have to make revisions to their prophecy or compel it to happen. Chen denies that he has any plans to lead his followers in a suicide ritual, and other experts warn against assuming that God's Salvation Church is another Heaven's Gate. They're already backing away from some of their predictions, said J. Gordon Meldon, one of the nation's leading authority on new religious movements. They don't seem to be putting all their eggs in one prophecy basket. This goes on, and I will read more of it because it really gets wiggy. But a lot of this has to do with this millennium thing. Now, many of you have heard about the millennium approaching, largely due to your having to adjust the clock on your computer. Digital clocks were never set to...
Which, by the way,
yeah,
got something from the bank, of all things, said, try this on your DOS and see if this works, then your clock will roll over. I tried it, and it worked.
Unfortunately, I work on an OS system, Macintosh, so I'm not sure. I'm sure there's something to do with that. But a millennium is a 1,000-year increment, okay? And we're coming up on the year 2000. Mankind seems to ascribe some importance to years ending in zeros. We call them decades. Another decade, okay? We seem to ascribe even greater importance to years that end in 2 zeros.
Mm-hmm.
Every 100 years.
That's it.
So for a year that ends in 3 zeros, we get really wiggy, okay? So the year 2000 is rapidly approaching according to most pundits. However, let's put this thing in perspective, folks. Is this the year 2000? Is this coming, is this not an arbitrary figure? And the answer is, come on, it's a pretty arbitrary figure.
More than likely.
If you were to follow the Jewish calendar, if you were to follow the Chinese calendar, if you were to follow the Roman calendar, it was only upon, I think it was Justin, Emperor of Rome,
Right.
who created the calendar, and it was in something like 200, what we now refer to as 200 A.D., that he set up the calendar, which actually began counting years. What everybody did, the Romans calculated a calendar basically based on the founding of Rome. Year 1 was the founding of Rome, and that was like the Romulus-Remus thing. So anyway, not to get into that. But the Greeks had a system where they found a reason to base, year 1. Basically, what Justin did was call, BC and AD, before Christ and after divination. Okay, that's how we sit in this year. But even biblical scholars and modern-day pundits will tell you that calculation is probably flawed by 4 years, 5 years, so it's either one way or the other. So the fact that we and these apocalyptic groups may ascribe some sort of importance to the year 2000 is kind of ludicrous. I mean, there's going to be celebrations. You're going to hear about it as it gets closer and closer and closer. Everybody's going to be talking about the millennium. I'm telling you, folks, in my humble opinion, there just is no significance to it other than a New Year's Eve, okay? Every New Year's Eve, you set yourself a new year. It's a new year. Again, New Year's Eve is an arbitrary date. It just is. You could go one way or the other. Would it have any less significance? Only if it has significance in your mind, and I think that's what we're talking about in terms of this millennium phenomenon. So a lot of these apocalyptic groups ascribe too much importance to a date that is really an arbitrary date. So you can look forward to the millennium coming up. To me, it's just another day. So this group is looking forward to and another interesting thing, just 100 miles up the highway from Garland, where this Salvation Church is now sitting, is a place called Waco. And you might remember that Waco ended with an inferno that engulfed David Koresh and 72 people. Koresh taught that he was a second Christian Messiah, destined to unlock the mysterious 7 seals in the book of Revelation. Millennialism, from the Latin word for 1,000, flows from the book of Revelation, the strange visionary conclusion of the New Testament, replete with stories of sinners burning in lakes of fire and drunken harlots sitting atop 7-headed beasts. Sounds like a rock and roll party to me. Written at a time when Christians were literally being fed to the lions, Revelation describes a final horrible battle between the forces of good and evil. Satan is thrown into a bottomless pit, and Christian martyrs are raised from the dead to reign with Christ for 1,000 years. Christians have been predicting the imminent return of Jesus since his crucifixion nearly 2,000 years ago, and church leaders have been admonishing them about setting dates since the Gospel of Matthew warned, of that day and hour, no one knows. But March 25th, mark that down on your calendars, is the date that Chen set for God's worldwide TV appearance. It is also the Christian festival of the Annunciation, the holy day marking the announcement to the Virgin Mary by the Archangel Gabriel that she would give birth to a son named Jesus 9 months later. So rather than the incarnation of Jesus of Nazareth, we now have the incarnation of Chen of Garland, and I thought you'd all appreciate that little story. And if you want to run out there and, well, I guess you don't have to. You just have to tune your TV to Channel 18.
Channel 18 now. When can we look forward to that again, Channel 18?
And you'll be set. That's on March 25th.
March 25th.
And then the Gary, Indiana thing, a little while later. So, that's where the flying saucers will meet in a circle of true believers.
Do you ever get the feeling this might be the guy that you would have seen years ago walking the streets of New York saying the world will end tomorrow?
I think he's pretty much the same guy.
Oh.
He's just changed his clothes. So, hey, it's Open Phones. It's WSRF, Entertainment Radio. This is Michael Garrett and Rich Rudner. We're here on the Cosmic Radio Network, and we're here to talk about just about anything you want to talk about tonight.
That's true. That's true.
One thing I'd like to say, and it's something that Rich and I are going to be doing next week right before we come to the program. And what is that, Rich?
Yes. Well, we're going to see the inaugural game of the Fusion, South Florida's entry into the Major League Soccer. Should be exciting. Carlos Valderrama and the boys.
Speaking of unidentified flying objects, where do you see Carlos Valderrama?
Yes, if you haven't seen Carlos's hair, you haven't seen anything. That's all I can tell you. But he's a very exciting player, one of the best in the world.
Really rated the best, isn't he? At this point in time, he's considered to be one of the very best in the world.
Yeah. He's a guy who'll score you a lot of goals. He'll mostly run the field for you and get you a lot of assists, keep the play going. And they tell me in practice he's interesting to watch because he'll kind of go through this routine where he plays at like 1/4 speed. But suddenly you turn around and there's another assist from Carlos, another. So they tell me one practice where they had 4 goals. He played at 1/4 speed and scored 3 of those goals. So it gives you an idea that he goes where he needs to go when he needs to be there.
I've seen the highlight tape. The guy is absolutely phenomenal. So if you're into soccer, what time's the game?
Game is at 4 o'clock. They tell me there's a fireworks show that immediately follows.
And where is the game?
And it's at Lockhart Stadium, newly renovated, $3 million renovation at Lockhart Stadium. You can be one of the first to get out there.
If you're into soccer at all, folks, this is going to be a beautiful stadium. This stadium was designed by a company that has created soccer pitches all over the world. And this is going to be a very nice job by a very, very talented soccer team. So if you're into soccer, I know that we got enough sports going on down here to choke a horse, but if you're into, I wonder if Ed Berliner has anything to say about soccer. Most of the sports programs down here don't
I wish
deal
you
too
had
much
said that. I could have pulled one of Ed's carts and we could have put his voice on there like magic, but anyway, but speaking of magic and silly things like that, we will have our trivia game coming up. We're going to take a short break here for just a short moment, if there's such a thing as a short moment. And then we're going to come back and ask you once again a movie question. I'm going to tell you what the title of the movie is. It's Earth versus the Flying Saucers, which came out in 1956. And I've one very simple and very specific question to ask about that. So you think about that, and we'll be back before you know it. I just couldn't resist. The Cosmic Radio Network. Yes, that's I just kind of thought that was kind of an interesting little piece of music to bring you back out of commercial break with. This is again Mr. Rich Rudner along with Michael Garrett here on the Cosmic Radio Network, and it's time to play a little bit of a trivia game and remind you first that our phone number is 581-1580. And as I said, we were going to talk about Earth versus the Flying Saucers. Again, that movie was released in 1956. What it's most noted for, the plot line was kind of dull and like who cares, but it's one of the top 20 ever made, and the reason for that is a fellow by the name of Ray Harryhausen. And if you don't know who Ray Harryhausen was, he was the guy that really developed special effects as we know them today. There are many, many movies that he did. You may be familiar with Jason and the Argonauts and all the special effects in that movie. He was responsible for all of that. He's a very, very interesting guy. Well, he did the flying saucers in this movie, so obviously that is not the trivia question. What I do want to know is, one city was destroyed. I want to know what the name of that city was. It's a very well-known city, so tell me if you can. And with that,
Hey, 581-1580. It's Open Phones. You got a question? You got a comment? You got an opinion? Are you waiting for the millennium? Are you going to join a fringe group and go to Gary, Indiana? Are you looking out for UFOs? Do you care? Do you have an opinion? 581-1580. We'd really like to hear from you. Give me a call. We'll talk about anything you want to. Or I'll just continue to talk about the things that I want to. Okay? So, let's see. The first few programs, as I mentioned before, this is program number 4.
yeah, it is. Wow.
Yeah, program number 4, heading into program number,
I guess we haven't insulted anybody yet, I guess.
No, we haven't...
We got to work on, I think we better work on that.
We haven't managed to knock ourselves off the air by pushing any of the buttons. It's almost becoming familiar in here, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Obviously not professional broadcasters, as you can tell.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean,
Well, potpourri. What else is happening? I have a new dog.
that's true, Miss Lucy.
I have a new dog.
April.
My doggie, my pal, my friend, Max of many years. My boxer died a few weeks ago, and we were very distraught and moped around for a couple of weeks. And we decided it was time for a new puppy to come into our lives. So, Lucy, where are you? Are you listening, Lucy?
The Bull Mastiff.
Yeah, Bull Mastiff.
This dog is, well, I saw this dog last week, or early this week for the first time, 11 weeks old, 10, 11 weeks old, and already weighing about 25 pounds. The dog will get up to around 100 pounds, so if I give you Michael's address, you'll never go to his house, I guarantee you that.
If she only gets 100 pounds, I'll be surprised. It may be closer to 120. I wanted a dog I could lay on, not a dog that laid on me. So she's a beauty, and I'm really thrilled about it. It's hard for me to leave her behind to come here today, but when she gets a little older, maybe she'll join us here on the program.
You know, somebody asked us about MUFON when we came to the station. I just want to remind folks that MUFON does meet locally, and I'm not quite sure what their schedule is, but we are going to have Fernando back on the show soon, and he'll be able to talk a little bit more about that. But the reason mostly I mentioned that is I got into a search engine the other day on the computer, on the internet, and took a look around to see what was out there, and so to speak. And there's all sorts of things, as Michael has said in the past, and I came up with a picture. Obviously, I can't show it to you. I'm just recommending that if you have access to the net, you might want to pop it up. And it's just interesting. It's a layout of what people have described as the typical flying saucer, as pieced together from abductees' accounts. Kind of interesting. So it kind of gives you a little background, some other things, a whole story about Betty and Barney Hill and all that sort of stuff, so you might want to get into that if you're not familiar with that. There was also other pieces. I got into one reading about what they call ancient astronauts. So that might be a fun thing to talk about for a couple of minutes. And you may recall the book Chariots of the Gods, which was later made into a movie. And basically it was Eric von Daniken's theories that the Earth was visited by extraterrestrials some 10 to 40,000 years ago. And while they were here, he suggests they built the Great Pyramids in Egypt, laid down airfields that can be seen today in Peru, and interbred with early humans to produce Homo sapiens. And some of his evidence is that he points to countless legends seen in cultures around the world that tell of winged gods or flying machines. These were inspired not by flights of fancy in the teller's mind, but by actual visits down through the ages of aliens with their advanced technology. And then for a little more tangible proofs, Van Daniken points to archaeological oddities found around the world. He suggests that Egyptians could not have built the Great Pyramid of Cheops without access to advanced technology, and there's no coincidence, and it's no coincidence that its height, when multiplied by 1,000 million, is the distance from the Earth to the Sun. It's not interesting stuff. He also claims the famous mysterious lines in Peru's Nazca Plain are an alien airfield, and that their unerring straight path for miles, even over mountains, could only be achieved if their building was directed from the air. So this is the kind of stuff that you can get into if you just kind of look around and you say, wow, really? And then you start looking into this, that, and the pyramids of Gaza, how in the devil were they built? There's just some really fascinating stuff. So recommend very highly that look into the internet. And, you can look up, just punch up UFO in a search engine, and I guarantee you will come up with more things that you could spend more than an evening with.
Oh yeah, UFOs are second only to the sex lines in terms of the internet. So if you are interested, and again, I hope that you are. That's our reason for being here, and to find out more about this phenomenon, to find out what's going on. As you know, I've quoted in the past this Gallup poll, which I carry around with me in case anybody wants to see it, where it says that 50% of the people polled believe in UFOs, and this is supposedly this Gallup poll is correct within plus or minus 3 percentage points. People also say that they think that extraterrestrials are in these UFOs, just about the same number, think that they're from another planet, just about 50%. So with all that number of people who believe this, we're just exactly what is the evidence, and what do you think, and why do you think it? Perhaps you're a little hesitant to get involved. When I first started talking about the subject, a lot of people said, "Oh man, don't talk about that. People will think you're crazy. You will lose your credibility." I think the same thing is true of my friend Gene, who decided that he would become a sponsor of the program. And he is Gene Anderson of Fringe's hair and nail salon. And I think he got some criticism when he mentioned to people he was going to perhaps sponsor this program, and they said, you'll ruin your credibility, no one believes that, you're crazy. So folks, call me crazy, just call me, as I'm delighted to say, at 581-1580. There are many people who say that UFOs should not be a matter of belief. Fernando, who was a guest on our first program, who Rich mentioned will be back again, firmly believes that there's a difference between knowing and believing, and belief. Chen, down in Garland, or God's Land, Texas, who believes that UFOs are going to take part in the final days of the planet, and the millennium, and the end of time, and the apocalypse, and sinners, and, we could spend lots of time on the cults. We could go back and look at Heaven's Gate and the absurdity of these people checking out. That is, of course, unless they're not actually riding on a spaceship to some promised land, and we're all stuck here, in purgatory on this planet. However, I don't particularly ascribe to that belief. So belief is one thing, knowing is another, and that's one of the problems with the UFO phenomenon, is that most people would say there is no credible evidence. There's no UFO to look at. There are no aliens that we can haul out in public and take out on the 4th of July parade and say...
As far as we know.
Well, as far as we know. Some people say that's not true, and there is evidence. I have a story that I can read here if there's time in the program, which is sort of the beginning of the evidential trail that a lot of people have followed, and it's been a stunning trail. How long do we have to take a break?
Oh, how long you need?
I don't know. Give me an idea, and I'll carry on.
A couple of minutes?
Couple of minutes.
A couple of 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes?
That's not long enough.
Not long enough?
No.
Well,
not long enough to get into what I wanted to get into, so let me get into something else.
I'll give you 5.
Okay. Let me read this, just to make some things clear about the United States government. Question: does the United States government study UFOs? And at present, the United States government does not officially investigate UFO sightings. Although there is some evidence suggesting that various government agencies continue to maintain a secret interest in the subject. During the past 40 years, however, there have been several projects and investigative panels that examine the UFO evidence, at least superficially, because UFOs are an aerial phenomenon. Between 1947 and 1969, the U.S. Air Force was charged with organizing several projects to investigate UFO reports. The most famous, and the one we talk about most, was Project Blue Book, which existed from 1952 to 1969. And that was official government agency charged with investigating UFO reports of Project Blue Book. What do you got, Rich?
Well, we have a caller on the line. I think Ron is calling us from down in Pembroke Pines, and he had a question, something he'd like to ask you, Michael. So let me see if I can get Ron up on the line here.
Hello.
Are you with us, Ron? Talk to us, Ron. Hear us.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Lost in space.
I don't know. Everything is lit up the way it's supposed to be lit up. What am I doing wrong? Oh, no.
Try to punch the buttons again?
Oh, no. All the buttons are... He's lit. Ron, are you there? Ron is not responding.
You got the slider up?
Slider, this funny thing, black knob?
Yeah.
Yeah. This phone, it's up, and...
We're not connected.
We're not connected. I don't see anything different. Everything is the way it's supposed to be. Any funky buttons anywhere where they're not supposed to be. Not that I'm aware of.
Try them again. Try the phone again.
Let me see if he's still there. You keep talking. I'll see if I can find Ron.
Okay. So anyway, Project Blue Book. Hold on, we're trying to get the phone up here.
Yeah, well, Ron said he was talking to us, but we couldn't hear him. You could hear Michael and you could hear us, but we couldn't hear you. Well, that's strange. We always sound like we're in a spaceship. We are. I mean, what do you think the Cosmic Radio Network comes from? Ron says he thinks we're in a spaceship somewhere.
Try to punch the button again. Let's see if we can get Ron on the air.
I'll punch the button again and see if I can get you up on the air. Hang on. Hang with us, buddy.
Brian. Ron, are you there?
Ron, have we got you? I don't...
That's the problem. People have been calling and we just can't hear them.
That's very odd. That's very odd. Well, Ron, if you just bear with us for a moment, I'm going to go see if I can find the engineer.
We're having some technical difficulties.
But bear with us, and Michael will wrap on here for a moment, and I'll be back.
Okay. Getting back to Project Blue Book, which existed from 1952 through 1969, there were many UFO reports during those years, including numerous sightings by military and civilian pilots and other technical personnel. The Air Force maintained that UFOs were not real. The military considered UFO reports seriously only because it believed that they could be used to confuse and overwhelm our intelligence and communications operations, thereby making America vulnerable to surprise attack by some foreign power. The object was that these reports and phenomenon were being generated somehow by a foreign power, and so at the very least we should investigate them in order that we not cause panic in the street, and that some foreign power would be responsible for creating panic. So some military experts also admitted the possibility that the Soviet Union, with the help of captured German scientists from World War II, was developing technology far superior to any the United States possessed. Therefore, the Air Force concluded that UFO reports should be investigated until these possibilities were proven unlikely. Through its investigations, the Air Force was able to explain most sightings as natural phenomena or misidentified aircraft. However, there were still hundreds of UFO reports that could not so easily explain. In 1966, there was a wave of spectacular UFO sightings across America that received widespread press coverage. Political leaders, especially congressional representatives, were pressured by their constituents who demanded explanations for their sightings. A congressional committee conducted hearings on the UFO sightings, 1966, folks, and pressure was placed on the Air Force to resolve the issue once and for all. Okay, we're going to try to get Ron on here again. Stand by. Ron, are you there? Hello. Darn it. That's a shame. Testing 1, 2. Lost in the cosmos. He was there.
We have Brian, the crack... I was going to say crackpot. I didn't mean to say that. Crack engineer.
What did I did?
Somebody messed with the other...
Stand by.
Are you there?
Ah, relief.
Hello.
Are we there?
Hi there, Ron. We're there.
Thanks, Brian.
We're there. Let us get the volume going here.
Okay, we're happening.
We are?
Yes.
We're here?
We're here.
We're live and in
Up
person.
there.
What's up?
Well, you guys sound like you're talking from outer space. And if you don't press the right button, you'll never bring the ship in.
That's correct. We're afraid we'll knock it totally off the air. That's why Brian
I
keeps...
have this friend, Gort, okay, and he wants to know something after listening to your show for 3 weeks here. Michael, hey, tell me honestly, you're on the airwaves. You know, the FCC could be listening here.
Uh-oh.
You believe in UFOs?
Do I believe in UFOs?
Have you seen a UFO?
Okay.
Have you had contact? And Mike, as the ambassador and the emissary of this show and of the show's content and position, it would certainly add a lot of credibility if you made that statement and came out and said, I'm here because... Fill in a blank, Michael.
Well, Ron, interesting that you brought that up.
Now, if you're self-employed, Michael, and you don't mind being, if you're not, you don't mind being ribbed at the office, then don't answer. But if you're self-employed and you don't have to take that, you can give me an honest answer.
I don't mind being ribbed at all. There was a time when perhaps that I did, and the reason that the Cosmic Radio Network is on the air has, in addition to the fact I've said many, many times, I want to know your opinions, and I want to know what you think So you show me yours and I'll show you mine. What do you think, Ron? Do you believe it?
You can't show it on radio.
That's the beauty. It's
like the great face for radio.
It's theater of the mind.
Come on, Michael, tell me now. Tell our listeners here now.
Well, I was kind of hedging on that, waiting for Uncle Rich here to go to a break. And then actually I was going to tell this story.
While we were in a break?
No.
I want to hear it on the air.
After we came back from the breaks. How many breaks do we have to do, Rich?
Oh, I don't know, a couple. We probably ought to get to one soon, though.
If you want to hang on, Ron, let's do a break, and then I'll address this.
Oh, okay, I'll hold.
Can you?
I can hold.
Okay. It'll be how long, Richard?
It'll be 90 seconds.
See you on the other side.
Okay.
We're going to take a break.
And this is Rich Rudner along with Michael Garrett back here on the Cosmic Radio Network. And we have Ron on the phone from Pembroke Pines. Ron has put Michael on the spot. He's asked Michael, what's your opinion, Michael? Do you believe in UFOs?
Well, you going to stick here with us, Ron, or you want to...
I'm here, Michael. I want to know, no radio jargon. Let's cut to the chase. Have you seen them, Michael?
Well, the answer straightforward is, folks, I have, in fact, witnessed a UFO.
All right. A little follow-up, please.
How's that?
Music.
Okay. For years, I was going to tell it in a more dramatic fashion, but it probably shouldn't be, because at this point in my life, it's become sort of a matter of fact. One of the reasons that I wanted to do this program, and one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to viewers and I wanted to open up the phones, was to try to get people to call in and tell me their experiences and share with me. And eventually, I was going to get around to this. And since you've pushed me at this hour, I'm going to do it. We got about 20 minutes left. A number of years ago, and this is one of the very good parts of this, a UFO sighting is considered better the more people who are with you. And before I saw a UFO, I probably felt a lot the same way you did, in the same way a lot of people do, and that is kind of, yeah, sure. Right. How come only a couple of guys sitting in a swamp in Louisiana after they finished about a half a bottle of Jack Daniels are the only ones to ever see UFOs? And I've always been interested in the phenomenon. I've always loved science fiction, and as I told on the first program, I first remember even hearing about UFOs back in the 1950s when we heard our parents talking about it, and that was about at the beginning of the new, what we call the modern era of UFO sightings. So the years pass by, and I'm not a UFO member of any particular group. I'm not following it. I don't have binoculars and telescopes. I'm not sitting out on the desert in Nevada hoping to see a UFO. I'm not up on Gulfport looking out over the waters. I don't live in anticipation of seeing an unidentified flying object. So that just wasn't the case. It really wasn't on my mind. I wasn't looking for it. I'm driving home with my wife. We're out at night with some friends up here in Broward County. And we're driving home, and no alcoholic beverages had been consumed. Absolutely no illicit substances of any kind were coursing through my veins. Coca-Cola and pizza, as I remember, was the night's fare. We were returning home about 11 o'clock, and I turned into the parking lot of the place where we were living, this townhouse, around 11 p.m., 11:30, something like that. And there were nobody in the parking lot, and it was a beautiful, clear night, absolutely clear night, about this time of year, maybe a little later, March, April. I get the exact date for you. And I turned to my wife. Actually, I stopped the car before I turned to my wife, which was a good idea. And I said, honey, you and I are a couple of the luckiest people on the planet tonight. And she said, what are you talking about? And I said, you and I are going to see something that very, very, very few people are privileged to witness. And she said, what are you talking about? And I pointed out through the windshield because I'd seen it already. I said, look at that. She turned her head forward and said, what in the world is that? And I said, I believe you could correctly call it an unidentified flying object. I can't identify it. It's definitely an object. And although it's hovering now, as opposed to technically flying, I guess you could say it's flying. So I'm going to call it an unidentified flying object. I ease the car forward a little bit. Okay, let me try to set the scene again. Beautiful, clear night, stars in the sky, as many as you can see from the city. I stopped the car, put the car in park, and I said, let's get out of the car. And she said, I don't think I want to get out of the car. I said, well, I'm getting out of the car. This is an opportunity I just can't pass up. So I opened my car door. The object was approximately 30 to 40 feet directly in front and to the right of us, hovering about 10 feet off the ground, 10 to 12 feet off the ground. I got out of the car, walked to the front of the car, and again exhorted my wife, come on, honey, get out of the car. You got to get a better view of this. And she said, I'm not that comfortable getting out of the car, but she opened the door, got out of the car, and stayed behind the car door while I advanced a few more feet. And as I moved, now a few minutes have gone by, as I moved toward the object, I saw an unidentified flying object, and it had to be saucer-shaped. I mean, what would you think? The first thing is, am I dreaming? Am I awake? Is this for real? And if it's for real, what does this mean? I mean, my mind was racing. I was excited. I had almost no fear at all that I can recall. It was, in a word, beautiful. It was fantastic. It was unbelievable. I mean, I lack the adjectives to tell you this. But it was saucer-shaped. And you think to yourself, God, how can it be saucer-shaped? You hear all of these things, and there it is. There's a flying, stinking saucer sitting right in front of me.
How big across was it?
Excuse me?
How big across was it?
I would estimate approximately 4 to 5 feet.
It had an articulated arm, did it not, Michael?
I have told Rich this, although I will tell you this, Ron, and I will tell anyone who will listen to this, that I didn't tell people about this for many, many years. And the reasons, I guess, are obvious.
1580. Michael, but I mean, there was no
sound,
sign of any.
No little green men, and no men with big heads and black eyes or anything like that. But the object moved toward me. It was saucer-shaped.
It was observing you?
It was glorious. I mean, it was beautiful. It was almost opalescent in color. It was almost as though it were a translucent glass lit from within.
Now, this was a one-time...
But it wasn't.
You never saw this again, huh?
No. On the top of it, coming out of the top of it, as Rich mentioned, was an articulated arm. An articulated arm as an adjective. Articulated, movable.
So Rich was the other part of the other couple in the car, then?
No, Rich was not there. I told him about this later and described it. That's why he's pitching in here. The articulated arm had a globe-like thing on the end of it, and it definitely observed me as I observed it. I looked at it, the articulated arm looked at...
And how long of time
minutes,
did this take place?
Minutes we observed each other. It moved toward me, I stopped. My wife is standing behind the car door, I'm standing in front of the car, the light's off. It's moving, it has like a light from within, it's not glowing bright and no great lights are flashing on it or anything, it's just glowing beautifully. And it moved.
If you believe what you saw, you and your wife saw in the other couple, then you're a believer, which goes back to my original question.
Right. There was no other couple at this time. Just my wife and I.
Oh, just your wife?
Yeah, we had left the other couple. We had driven home. Yeah. So the answer is, I'm not a believer. I'm a knower.
A knower.
Believing implies not knowing.
Okay, Michael, now let's go a step further here, because you now know if the scene was actually brought to reality from Close Encounters and they had the saucer lined up and the people were ready to go, would you want to be one of them?
Gee, there'd have to be a whole lot more information for me to want to.
You mean at least you know that wherever you're going, they have golf courses?
To say that
They don't have golf courses in outer space, don't they?
I do have family here on planet Earth that I'm pretty close to. I'm not sure that I'd want to take off without them and or with them. But I would like to know. I would like to know more. I would like to know if there are people out there with similar experiences than I am. So let me wrap this up by saying there was absolutely no sound.
Yeah.
And
Michael, I know
when it left,
time you're coming up in your last 10 minutes, and I'm sure you got other things to go, and I have to put a roast on.
It's not an alien roast, is it?
Hmm?
It's not an alien roast, is it? Not roasting an alien.
No, it's not a roasted alien.
Oh, okay.
It's a roast.
Just checking.
I find roasted aliens at this time of see.
well, I don't expect you to believe me. I don't expect anyone to believe me.
Michael, I've known you a long time, and if you say,
Well, my wife.
and you saw one.
The beautiful thing was, had my wife not been with me, I would probably be roaming the streets today, homeless, with people absolutely, totally convinced that I was insane as I walked down the street telling people that I had actually seen a UFO. But because my wife is such a credible person, and she wouldn't, my affinity for that I always talk about science fiction.
Yeah.
She wouldn't watch a lizard in a spaceship movie if you paid her. So, she's a professional. She's in the healthcare professions. She's a very structured, scientific individual. And all I can say is, thank goodness for my sanity that I had a witness, a credible witness with me.
Yeah.
We went inside afterwards. I said, don't say a word. We went inside. I gave her a pen and a piece of paper. I said, you go in the other room and draw what you saw. I went in the other room, drew what I saw, compared them. There it was. She said, shouldn't we call someone? Shouldn't we notify someone? And I said, yes, sure, honey. Let's call the Miami Herald and get a reporter out here right away.
Get in line, for the, about.
And so the truth,
I have to go.
The truth is, we didn't tell anybody for years and years and years. And tonight, you've outed me on the radio. It was something that I was going to do. But
it's coming up on this time of the year. Manishtano halala hazah.
And you too. And listen, second part of X-Files tonight. Last week, it was on around, that's at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
First part last night. Second part, and to you too, Gort.
Enjoy your roast, Ron.
See you on the other side, buddy. Bye-bye. Thanks for calling. To wrap up my my little adventure, I can say that there was absolutely no sound from this hovering device. And once it had looked me over and I had looked it over, it took off at an accelerating rate of speed, meaning it started slowly, took off at about a 45-degree angle into the night sky, accelerated faster and faster and faster. My wife and I watched it until it went out of sight. And so now everyone knows, and everyone also knows that my wife saw it as well, and she's willing to, although she doesn't understand it, she's certainly willing to admit that she saw it. And if you believe us, if you think I'm crazy, that's fine. I say you can call me crazy if you want. Just call me at 581-1580.
1580, that's our number, 581-1580. We're going to take a very short break and then we'll be back to wrap up the show, so stay with us if you would, please. And we're back here on the Cosmic Radio Network. This is Rich Rudner along with Michael Garrett, and we've just got a few things left to cover in the last few minutes that we have. Ron really put you on the spot, did he not, Michael?
Well, actually, I was going to tell the story tonight anyway on this anniversary 4th episode of the Cosmic Radio Network.
Oh.
But I was fishing to see if anybody would give me some responses before I gave my story. But again, I want to say, I don't expect you to believe me. Put in your position, I'm not sure I would believe me either. But I do believe me. I was there. I know what I saw. And I'm telling you, folks, There's something out there that I cannot explain. I've seen it. It was the most exciting, phenomenal thing I've ever seen, and it washed over me like the feeling of everything I knew was wrong, or at least that I had to rethink ways that I'd been thinking about nearly everything in my life up until that point. And I didn't speak with anyone for a long time about it because of the credibility issue, because of the ridicule issue. Time passes. 50% of the people now say, according to a Gallup poll, that they believe in UFOs. Again, belief is one thing, knowing is another. I am one of those people who knows that they saw what they saw. This was not a military object. This was not an F-117. This was not a balloon in the sky. This was something entirely beyond the explanation of science and technology as we know it on this planet. It may have been interdimensional, may have come from the bottom of the ocean, it may have come from the moon. I can't tell you where it came from, but I know what I saw, and I will never, ever forget.
And I know it was actually quite a while before you even told me about it.
I didn't really speak to anyone about it, and I say I think that may be, you know, if you're sitting out there listening, and you
or
have
standing out there,
or standing, or lying down, even reclining,
any way you want to go,
is a possibility. You may have had some of those same feelings. If you have had an experience that you'd like to talk about, either on the radio or with me, you can call us off the radio. Let me give you this phone number for the Cosmic Radio Network, off the radio, and you can leave me a message at this number. If you've had an experience, if you know someone who has, I'd love to talk to you. I'd like to share my experience with you. I'd like to see what it is you think and how you feel about it, what happened to you. I'm at 954-321-6600. That's 24-hour-a-day answering service. If you leave your name and number and you say you'd like to talk to me about the Cosmic Radio Network, I'll give you a call back. Or hey, if you want to be an additional sponsor of the Cosmic Radio Network, like Fringe's Hair and Nail Salon,
not forget Fringe's.
Let me give you that number.
Last blow for Fringe's.
That number is 432-6645. He's open Tuesdays through Sundays. Finest in precision haircuts, hair coloring, manicuring, and hair care products. I'm telling you, there's nobody better than Gene. He's a gem in West Brown.
Thank you, Michael. And we're going to wrap up our show this evening. This has been the Cosmic Radio Network, your home for discussion on UFOs, aliens, government cover-ups, all that sort of stuff. This is Rich Rudner along with Michael Garrett. We hope that you've enjoyed listening to us, and we'll tune in again next week on 1580 here at WSRF. We'll be back. We want you to remember a couple of things. We're here for you. You tell us what you want to know about or what you think, because that's what we're here for. Meanwhile, keep looking up, because this is where the truth is.